Hello, I'm joined today by Richard Combalak from Yomdel and Sam Oliver from LeadPro. How are we doing, guys?
Great, David. Thanks for allowing us to come and join you again.
It's always a pleasure to have you back here, Richard. You can keep coming as many times as you like. Now, we did discuss this very briefly off camera before, but you guys are effectively one big happy family, and that brings massive benefits in for the agents. Do you want to just touch on that a little bit before we get going with our main topic today?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, you may have seen me very recently on another webinar from Kerfuffle, portraying to be Richard Combalak from Brief Your Market. So there may be some confusion there. Essentially, yeah, we are all one big happy family now. We're part of a business called Nurture Group. So I'm just going to share on my screen, David, a quick funnel that actually explains a little bit about all of the companies in the business and how they all fit together. So in the business, you've got Brief Your Market, which is all about email marketing, nurture marketing, etc. Know Your Market, a mystery shopping company.
Yep.
Yomdel, which we're going to talk some more about today, but essentially live chat that can book appointments for people and follow appointments up. Starbury, which is the well-known website company there. Property Jungle, another web company. This one tends to be higher end bespoke websites. This one tends to be more templated everyday websites. And LeadPro. LeadPro is all about lead qualification, turning leads into phone calls, and basically nurturing those leads immediately straight into something. So all of these businesses form part of what we're calling the property ecosystem, which is all about a sales funnel. So this is the sales funnel where at the top of the sales funnel, we've all got lead generation going on where new leads are coming in from your website companies like Starbury, the Property Jungle, as well as from any social media promotions and things going on. You've then got LeadPro who then qualify those leads, and they've got an auto caller and can even turn the lead straight into a phone call, which Sam quite rightly likes to call the bat phone. So I really like that. So you can qualify them, turn them into a phone call, and then ultimately they'll end up inside Brief Your Market where they're going to go on that nurture marketing journey. So whether that's a live lead in a nurture marketing journey that's just been captured and come through this funnel, or whether that's past historic leads, past buyers, past sellers going for a 7-year customer journey, they're all being nurtured here inside Brief Your Market. And then there's Yomdel, which is all about chatting to any of those leads coming through the funnel with live chat operators there, but that can actually book the appointments in somebody's diary. So it doesn't matter whether I'm Repick, Desres, Dupix, they'll have the diary availability sat there and they'll actually be chatting to them and taking actual bookings for viewings, valuations, etc., and booking them in the diaries. And then Know Your Market, sitting off to the side here, is all about mystery shopping. So when a lead does go back to an estate agent, we want to understand really why the conversion rates are what they are and what they can do to improve the conversion rates. And the only way really to do that properly is to mystery shop that business, mystery shop all the individuals in it, from a web inquiry, a phone call, or even a market appraisal being mystery shopped. Benchmark it by other colleagues in the industry and via competitors, and be able to work on why conversion rates are what they are and how they differ from their competitors and colleagues and all that stuff. And that's how this business fits together, all under the umbrella of Nurture Group. So yeah, you see us come with lots of different hats on. I am the ice cream man, and I got loads of hats, but all fitting under the Nurture banner essentially.
Okay, that all now makes a lot more sense for agents, and they all fit seamlessly together. They belong together, don't they? And they all sort of enable that overall process. And I suppose what we're here to talk about today mainly is something that a lot of agents think they've already got in the bag. They know it's become bread and butter. You must have something on Facebook that is generating some sort of leads, and a lot of us, I think, simply by posting on Facebook think that's it, job done, post has gone out, we're going to get a bit of engagement and that's all we have to do with it. But in truth, to make it turn it into a lead generator, you need that to be properly followed up. So you're going to show us today how to generate leads from Facebook with zero expertise, which my favorite kind of expertise, by the way, and an automatic follow-up 24/7. So just bringing that back up there. Take us through it. How does this new process work?
I'll defer to Sam on that one. So Sam will talk us through the process. I'll talk us through how we convert it into an appointment, but Sam will talk through the Facebook process first.
Yeah, sure. So a bit of an analogy for you, David. It's a little bit like photography. Anyone with a camera phone can take some great photos, they can take some great videos, and some people are really, really good at it. You know, they've just got natural talent. But when it comes to a professional event, a wedding, you want to bring in someone who it's their full-time professional focus. It's what they do day in, day out. They're experts at it. They understand it all. And it's really similar with social media. The first thing that it's incredibly important to educate agents about is there is a huge difference from having a Facebook page and creating a post to having a Facebook ads manager account where you're actually doing paid for advertising. Now, I'm not talking about just paying to boost a post. I'm talking about creating entire advertising campaigns where you are running multiple different ad sets with different copy, where you're really delving into audience creation, figuring out who the right type of audiences to target are. And it is very complicated. To become Meta marketing certified is a huge amount of work because it's like learning an entire new language. You've got a whole new dashboard to learn. You've got to understand how to create these audiences, how to analyze the campaigns, the performance, how to tweak them. Undoubtedly, it's something that estate agents can sit and spend hours and hours and hours learning how to do, but it is just going to be so much faster and cheaper to outsource it and pay it to a specialist that does it day in, day out. A couple of the really key points here are we've been doing this for over 3 years now, and we have a specialist team. I often speak to agents and they say, I used an outsourced marketing company, and it's a marketing company that does Facebook advertising, but they're not industry specific. And this means they're advertising for local florists, for local butchers.
Yeah.
And it's a totally different experience to working with an agency that all we do is property and all we do is estate agency. It means that we're really able to understand the niche. And the key thing here is it's all about booking and valuations. Another thing that a lot of agents don't understand, they think, there's an offering to do Facebook marketing and Facebook advertising. And a lot of agents assume that means, well, I'm selling a property, I'll post this property on Facebook and on Instagram, and that's Facebook marketing and advertising. If you're posting a property that is for sale, what you're doing is you're attracting buyer inquiries. You're just getting applicants and viewing leads, which we know a lot of agents are not lacking for right now. If anything, they're struggling to deal with the volume of inquiries that are coming in. So when we talk about Facebook and Instagram advertising, the other really important thing to clarify is we're talking about generating vendor and landlord leads. It's all about valuation. So when we are targeting audiences, we're not looking at generating buyer leads, we're looking at generating valuation inquiries. And when we're creating advert copy, we're not talking about posting the properties that you have for sale. We're talking about compelling property that is going to help you to convince a vendor to get in touch about booking an in-person valuation with you. So I'm not going to, on this call, go into the detail of how we do it all. What's the secret sauce? Open up Facebook Ad Manager and show you.
Sam, I thought we were going to get it all there for free.
Yeah.
But these ads, I guess what you're talking about, this needs to be a compelling, eye-catching advert to get them to engage with it in the first place. But when we talk about engage, it needs to have a clear call to action that leads somewhere. And not only leads somewhere, it doesn't just sit in your sort of Facebook Messenger messages and never get answered for 3 days until somebody goes, hey, have you noticed we've got two sat here waiting for us? So let's talk about the investment first, and then perhaps how you deal with the inquiries when they come in. When you talk about generating a meaningful advertising campaign with those calls to action, how much does an agent need to invest in those campaigns?
So there's two investments. There's the time investment and there's the financial investment. The time investment is up to the agent. We work with a lot of different brands, and some of them, for example, we're doing a Facebook advertising campaign for Marsh & Parsons. They've got a really big team internally that do a lot of the copy for them. So with them, they want to have a lot of involvement in actually creating the advert copy. Whereas we also do a lot of work with single office, very busy independent agents, and they want nothing to do with the advertising a copy at all. They just want it all done for them. So the time investment is down to the agent. There's usually only one step that we do need the agent to do, and that is to give us admin access to their Facebook page. However, some agents don't even have a Facebook page set up. And if that's the case, there's literally zero time investment. We will set up the Facebook page, we will create the custom audiences, we'll create the advert copy, and we'll get the lead gen flowing. So time is not a big barrier to entry. The financial cost of this, there's two components. The first component is our cost, our service fee of doing all of the setup and the campaign and all of the work. That is typically £300 per office per month. The second cost is the actual advertising spend with Facebook. And what we recommend is spending around about £5 per office per day of ad credit. That's about £150 a month ad credit. So we're talking in general, £450 per office per month spend is the total cost. And what we would expect to see, geography and type of agent depending, is we'd expect that to achieve about 4 in-person booked valuations is what you get out of that.
It's quite interesting because you've provided some stats as well. I think you've got a there's another agency. Am I allowed to name them? I'm going to name them. Chase Evans, I think, spent just £10 a day and received 66 leads over 8 weeks using this method. So it works, and regardless of what agents might think, because sometimes you do look at the volume of inquiries that you generate and you go, oh wow, that's loads, but unless they're actual kind of valuation leads or vendor leads, you could argue a lot of them you can just, because you need to keep that business running, you need to keep the top of that funnel filled with as many valuation leads as possible.
This is where the Yomdel integration is really key. Probably the biggest buying reason why agents don't do this, well, maybe there's two. The first of all is they don't see the value and they think they've kind of got social media already covered and they just think they don't need to do it, which is crazy because, as you just said, David, it's a great low cost source of actually booked valuations. But the second biggest reason why agents are loath to do this kind of advertising is that the lead quality, while it's good, it's not that if you get 10 inbound leads from this, they're not all going to go on to sell a house with you. And agents get really frustrated going, oh, the lead quality is low. On average, about 7 of those 10 leads won't actually have a house to sell. They'll just be thinking of remortgaging, or they're just curious, or they're thinking of buying and they want to see what the price is. And the key thing here, and this is once again, we'll hand over to Rich in a second to talk about the Yomdel integration. 3 of those leads will actually be potential vendors. On average, 1 of them will be ready in the next month to sell their house, and 2 of them will be wanting to sell their house within sort of 1 to 12 months and will need nurtured. So integrating with Yomdel to be able to not just fill the funnel, but then pre-qualify them for the agent. The agent isn't getting demotivated at having all these calls where it's just tenants inquiring. Yomdel doing the legwork. That's where this partnership becomes incredibly valuable.
Yeah, and I think that actually is, as you've stated it, is a in terms of the cost of acquiring a lead, it pays for itself, doesn't it? Really, it far outweighs what you have to put into it. And given the fact that most agents, they're not necessarily cash poor, but they are time poor. That's for sure. And I think it's that investment itself, the fact that that can actually be outsourced to somebody, it is phenomenal. So, Richard.
Yeah. So to carry that on, if you use that kind of spend that Sam's talking about there, you would expect about 30 enquiries to come through that subsequently end up in these 4 physical valuations taking place. And that's the problem, is the time to deal with 30 enquiries puts the agent off, because they're like, oh God, I haven't got time to deal with these. And actually, we actually try and turn the 30 into 40. We try and increase it even more. And the reason we want to do that is because we've got processes and mechanisms and abilities to spend the time on those, to nurture them, so that we can hopefully turn the 4 physical valuations into 5 physical valuations. So we do lots of different things to improve them. One of them being that if you're doing the advertising in Facebook, the call to action we want to deploy is Facebook Messenger call to action. Now, the problem there is most agents man their Facebook Messenger, and therefore the thought of having 30 inquiries of general inquiries coming through is daunting to them if they're not sort the wheat from the chaff inquiries. And so the reason we want to put Facebook Messenger there is it gets a higher response rate, because if you put a link that links away,
so I mean, you might assume that it's what you actually want to do is take somebody out of the Facebook environment, direct them to your own web ecosystem, but you're actually going to deal with them right there and then, aren't you?
Yeah, we want to deal with them in Facebook, because as soon as you put a link to link away, the bounce rate, which is somebody clicking the link and then going, oh no, and closing the window, is ginormous, because they don't want to leave the environment they're in. So if you leave them in the environment they're in, you leave them in the Facebook Messenger, they click Facebook Messenger, it then takes them into that messaging app. We're then manning the messaging app behind the scenes. So Yomdel then manages it exactly the same way as we do with all of our live chats behind the scenes, and that will then increase response rate. The other interesting thing is, if you think about your own personal use of Facebook, the times of day that you might be manning, might be using your Facebook, and therefore needing to man Facebook, don't tend to fit into the normal working environment anyway. So again, then the thought for an agent of going home after a hard day's work and sitting there and having to man their Facebook to find these 4 leads out of 30 leads is pretty daunting.
It's true, because for all that we want to talk about agents being super agents and on top of their customer service, they're also human beings, and at some point they want to be able to leave their work and carry on and not have to sort of go at it, or throughout the evening. And I think that if you've got somebody that's manning that chat, and they're going to be responsive, and you're manning that, effectively this then becomes 24/7, doesn't it?
It is completely 24/7. I'll share with you a dashboard. So this is a dashboard of a fairly sizable sized agency, and over the last 30 days we have chatted to 861 people for them, of which 399 we've then captured as leads. So some people might want to chat anonymously with us and ask us questions. Now, these aren't the ones coming through Facebook Messenger. These ones might be coming through other routes, but because we know who they are when they're Facebook Messenger. But they might want to chat to us anonymously. And it's then about the skill of our operator in converting them into a lead and capturing their name, email, and phone and all that stuff. And then out of those, we booked in 101 valuations for this particular agency. But the interesting thing, to touch on your point there, is 42% of these have been out of hours. So a whopping 369 have been outside of this agency's hours. And if you look down here, you can see the chats going on and what times of day they're going on at.
But that totally makes sense, doesn't it, when you think about it? That one of the things about social media is it's on our terms as users, isn't it? It's when it suits us. It's when we're free. And if most of us are working regular hours, we're going to want to contact service providers in an evening, maybe first thing in the morning, really early before their offices are open. And I think that is that being that dynamic, being able to respond to those leads out of hours, but doing it professionally. I mean, I've done it before where I've answered the company chat at 11 o'clock at night thinking, oh, this is going to be really great. You know, I'm going to get myself a valuation here. When you realize you're still chatting at 1:30 in the morning because this conversation is on, and you're perhaps not at your best, you're also not doing justice to that lead particularly. And I think it needs to be handled by people that are on the ball.
Absolutely. And so yeah, on a night shift, we've got 12 operators sat there. They're manning all these chats, they're taking them in, and then they're looking in the agents' diaries and booking them appointments. So nicest thing is those 4 appointments we're hunting out from the Facebook advertising that Sam's doing. You come in the morning and you've got a nice booking in your diary, and it's all been done for you at an available time in your diary, and away you go. And that's the difference. The aim of this whole process, and why Sam and I are delighted to be part of this nurture group and the nurture funnel, is actually we fill in a load of the blanks for each other here. That he's brilliant at doing the Facebook advertising, but I can increase his conversion rates by then taking it one step further and booking them in as a valuation and manning that Facebook Messenger button. And yeah,
because having leads without the nurture and convert element, it doesn't work separating it out. But Sam, just to return to you again on the sort of creative side of it. So if I'm an agent and I'm coming to you and I'm saying, look, I want you guys to handle it. I haven't got the time to do it. Do I get sort of creative say over the messaging, the look and feel of these adverts? I'm presuming you've got a ton of templates that work, or is it completely bespoke every time?
So like we sort of touched on earlier, if it's the agent's brand, if the agent wants to see everything and approve it before it goes live, of course we do that. However, in reality, like Rich was saying, the most powerful thing about this partnership and this marketing channel is agents are so time poor. They just want zero involvement in this process. They want the leads generated, they want the leads qualified, and they want them booked into the diary so that they can do their job of getting into the living room, valuing the property, and winning the instruction. So we tend to find that very few agents want any kind of cognitive load or decision making or any blockers to just getting this up and running. They just want the valuations booked in. So we have got a whole selection of different creatives that we've found works really well, and that's one of our USPs. We've nearly spent £200,000 with Facebook on ad credit for these campaigns, and that insight has really helped us understand what creative is and isn't effective. How can we maximize the conversion of these leads? How can we get agent leads at the best price? So yeah, that's a bit of the secret sauce that we have.
And it is extremely cost effective. I mean, we will look back at this era as almost being the golden age of lead acquisition in terms of Facebook advertising, because compared to other forms of advertising, this is extremely personal, extremely targeted, but also extremely cheap on the whole.
I think the thing there is, in terms of your era, is in the past, agencies spent a lot of money on indirect marketing. So you spent a lot of money on in-paper advertising and things like that. What this new age and era has delivered to us is the ability to do a lot more direct marketing. So whether or not you want to put an advert on Sky TV and you want to target people who are just living in LE1 postcode, you can do that. You can be that direct in somebody's face. The same with Facebook. You can profile an audience and say, I want everybody between 30 and 40 years old, living in this area, in this street, in this town, in whatever. You could do that, or who work in these careers. You can be really direct. And that's what technology's delivered is it's got rid of indirect advertising and gone, you don't need indirect because you can do direct here as well. And so that's the difference, that we're in a different world now. And Facebook allows you to do it. Google allows you to do it somewhat in their advertising as well. Not quite as good as Facebook, because Facebook seems to know everything about everybody on the planet, including what some people had for dinner last night, type of thing.
It was chicken, and it was great. Thanks for asking.
We're just doing a targeted campaign on chicken eaters.
The key thing there, David, is you mentioned that the cost of acquisition is really low, but the cost of acquisition is really low only if there's a way to actually access this channel. And I think that if you were to sit down 100 agents in front of the Facebook ad manager, the actual dashboard where they have to go in and create these campaigns, not a single one of them would want to do it, because it takes so long to learn how to use that thing. It's so complicated. So the barrier to entry isn't actually the ad spend cost of the platform. I mean, we mentioned Facebook, but let's not forget Instagram, because it's also, all these adverts are going on Instagram. The barrier to entry for agents is the time cost. And that's where this product that we're really pushing now is fairly new for agents to be able to actually access, and to only have to pay £300 a month to get access to this channel. That's the incredible thing. Typically, it would be far more expensive. Yeah.
I think having it ticking away there and being able to sort of go to bed at night and being able to switch off at some point. You don't need to sort of be that paranoid where you're checking every message that comes in, because and that is where I've seen LeadPro come into its own, dealing with basic leads that are coming through. But that's a whole different webinar. But there are services out there. If you're an agent and you're wondering where this ends, where does your time end in terms of your personal life and also your work life, you can strike that balance really well now, because you have these outsourced services that you can rely on, and you can also rely on Yomdel answering those queries in a way that the customer feels that they're dealing with you. They're not dealing with just some outsourced chat that has no idea about the property selling process. That's really key, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we do a knowledge bank to get to know the business. We're constantly updating those knowledge banks. So, let's say you had done a charity cycle ride or something, David, last month. That as you do on a regular basis.
Look like that's what I
do. They would give us that feedback, just in case somebody said, "How did your charity cycle ride go last month?" Then our operators are able to answer it and go, "Went really well, did this amount, raised this amount of money for the charity," things like that. We're constantly talking to the agencies to make sure that it is familiar with that agency and people can have those conversations, so it does feel like it's just an outsourced member of the team, or just part of the team. Sorry.
I think it's such an essential element, and I think that regardless, even if you don't have a campaign set up, how can you afford to let your comms sort of be handled so casually? You should have it answered professionally. I think that definitely does bring a lot of value in, and having both the tie-up between LeadPro and Yomdel there, it's a no-brainer, absolutely. So Sam, in terms of the next steps to the process, if there are agents watching this today and they want to sort of reach out, get in touch with you, typically what's your onboarding process with them?
So it's best to reach out through the website and book in a discovery call to make sure it is definitely the right channel for you, and to just answer questions, understand all the pricing. One key thing that I will say, for this to actually start paying dividends, it takes a minimum of 3 months, because these leads come in and then you're not going to get the instruction straight away. You actually need a couple of weeks to book in the appointment. Then the person needs to be chased to make their decision. Then they're going to instruct you. The house is going to go in the market. We know the house is going to sell very quickly right now, but even then it's going to take a long time to get through conveyancing all the way to exchange and completion, and for you to get paid. So what agents need to know is that they're just starting to fill their funnel for really Q1 next year. If they start spending on this today, they're going to be bringing in revenue Q1, Q2 next year. Unfortunately, for agents that are keen to try this, we have now got a bit of a waiting list. It's been a record month for us on this product, and there is a lot of setup work. The price point is ridiculously good because for that £300, we have to do a huge amount of manual work, set up the ad manager, the copy, the creative campaigns. It's probably going to be a case of maybe 6 to 8 weeks wait time for agents that want to get this set up. So the sooner people book it in and make the decision, the better for them. Typically, when we're less busy, it's usually 1 to 2 weeks turnaround time, but we're just a bit snowed under at the moment.
It's great to hear that you are snowed under, because it's great to hear that there's agents doubling down on this, that they understand that this is the key. That income that you mentioned, Q1, Q2 of next year, we need to be working on that right now. We need to be making that provision for next year, because I think, you know, forward planning, a lot of us sort of, we know our market's seasonal, so we know we're in this sort of back to school market at the moment, but before we know it, Christmas will be upon us, and you get a bit of slowdown over there as well. It's essential to keep filling that funnel, because this is a long, estate agency isn't a quick payoff, and anybody that's watching this knows that about their profession. They know that, you know, we're all about nurturing pipelines, and nurturing funnels is equally as important to keep those pipelines going.
So maybe it's worth touching base, Rich, on the nurture journey within BYM, because David, that's a key point. A lot of these leads do take a lot of time to nurture.
Yeah, 100%, because you know, we talk about say we've found the 4 to 5 gold dust out of the 30 inquiries. That doesn't mean we're going to get the other 25 inquiries and put them in the bin. Because the reality is, whilst it might not be the right time for them to sell now, it might be in the future. So once we've captured their address and we know who they are, and we continually communicate with them, we can nurture them and hopefully be at the forefront of the mind's eye when it is the right time for them to sell. The good thing is, once you've captured their data as well, even if they didn't instruct you, if you failed in that mix of keeping them at the forefront of the mind's eye, and they go on with a competitor, as soon as they go on with a competitor, the brief your market system will even identify, oh, hang on, you know this person. You know, they came through Facebook advertising 3 years ago. The time wasn't right for them to sell right now. You did a bit of nurture marketing. They've obviously not paid enough attention to it, but they've gone on with a competitor, and here's their email address and here's their phone number. It flags it up straight away, so that they could, then you get another bite of the cherry and you can go after them again. And so, yeah, it works. That whole sales funnel that we're pulling together as Nurture Group works in harmony, because LeadPro's capturing the leads. LeadPro's capturing them from the Facebook advertising it's doing, but LeadPro also does portal responsive. So it will capture them from your Rightmove and your Zoopla inquiries in the first place, brings them into this funnel. Brief Your Market then nurtures them through journeys. Yomdel's then booking in either from the top layer or from that layer of the funnel. And so all of this technology joins up together and works in harmony with each other.
And regardless of whether you think vendors pay attention to this sort of stuff, I think they do when you're talking to them. If they know that you're able to identify, so if I was talking to you as a vendor, and even if they went on the market with a different customer, I can say, oh, actually, yes, I remember sort of dealing with you 3 or 4 years ago. We had a Facebook lead, we had a conversation. Do you remember that? People like to be remembered, whether it's for good or for bad. They like to be remembered as a customer, and that would stick with me. I think I would then sort of think, okay, well, look, you know, this guy knows what he's doing. They're paying attention to the conversations that they're having, and they are sort of truly nurturing those leads in the truest sense of it. So I think it's absolutely invaluable.
It's also really worth thinking about this over a longer time period. So earlier we talked about wanting to fill the funnel to generate revenue for Q1 and Q2 of next year. But actually, with the BYM Nurture product, every single month that you're doing this advertising, you're filling the funnel, and you end up with this really significantly large database of long-term leads. And that is going to bring you revenue year after year, particularly in our industry where the transaction timeline can be so long. The quality of that lead may be exceptionally high, and they will go on to list with you in 2.5 years because you already paid for them as a lead 2.5 years ago, and then you have the software and systems in place to keep nurturing them. So you're not just investing in the short-term funnel of revenue generation, you really are building up a bank account of revenue that is going to come in year after year after year.
Yeah, and as you said, David, the advantage of this is you can see that they came through Facebook advertising, but you would also be able to see their transcript. So their transcript can also then end up in your CRM, sitting next to the record. So you can even see the chronology of the conversation that was going on. So you can see, you know, that they said they've got 2 children and 2 dogs. So when you talk to them a year later and you say to them, oh, how are the kids getting on? And have you still got the 2 dogs? You know, you can see all of that conversation. And
that
make
market
it relevant.
intelligence is important, isn't it? To have, I think one of the things we sometimes struggle with as agents is having genuine conversations with people. And if you want to add value and you want to make it seem that you genuinely care, detail's important, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's a normal human instinct, really, as you want to feel listened to, and you want to feel somebody's listened to you and paid attention. You know, I've been on courses where they've talked about active listening and passive listening and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the active listening is, you know, shows respect to somebody, but then people engage with you immediately if you've been active listening to them. Well, this would show an element of active listening because you got the transcript, and that will help, and it will help you win business at the end of the day.
Well, it sounds like the perfect partnership between the two sides of the company, and lots of great things to come from the Nurture Group, as we touched on at the beginning of this call. Thank you very much for giving us your time today and talking us through it.
No, thank you, David, and I'll no doubt see you with a different hat on again.
Hey, next week, let's do it all again. Thanks, guys.
Fantastic. Thanks, David. Cheers.